Lately I find myself very fascinated with the supernatural Americana. Not just Native American myth, but all sorts of folklore. Hill witches in the Appalachians. Old Scratch wandering New England and picking fights with respected lawyers. Ghost trains. Joe whatever. The Steel Golem of Pittsburgh.
Steel Golem of Pittsburgh? Who's this? I've never heard of that one. Oh, you Americans are going to so garn at us.
Old Rarden. Rarden and the Wolf Rock in Ohio and the Weird West. So, I want to do a thread about that. In this post any good US folk tales or ghost stories you've heard. Talk about any Weird West games you've played. Anything you feel is relevant.
This is something that I think is really...
It's going to be a Skinwalker thread.
No, it's actually not. I give it a quick scan. It's not actually overly Skinwalker. It is pretty interesting, and I feel like... See, this is one thing that I've got. I feel like history's a great... History and folklore is perfect for basing a lot of adventures. It's a great to like work off and bounce off for adventures, but I feel like a lot of the time it kind of ends up being if you want to do like hyper historically accurate. I don't know. It's just not my game. It's just not my play style. Yeah. I know some guys absolutely love it and go mental for it and are really into it. And look, if that's for you, then more power to you. It's just not something that I.
No, thank you.
No, I'm it's going to be a pass on me. Yes. All right. I'm going to have to pass on that. But look, let's jump into this one, will we? So Megan, I said, "Oh, do you want to do this one?" It's by Ohio, and Megan goes, "Oh, it's always fucking Ohio, isn't it?"
Ohio and Utah.
And then she's taking the piss out of me the way I say Utah.
No, you didn't say Utah like that the first time around.
What did I say?
You said Utah.
Utah.
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to call it Utah from now on. I know there's a couple of you guys from Utah that watch it. Alright.
In southern Ohio, somewhere between Pike and Jackson counties, there's a high flat top hill of granite. It was originally called Great Buzzard's Rock, or later on simply Big Rock, and it was the graveyard of wolves.
Why?
Bones.
Oh, because Buzzard would vote. Like, would they take it and then bring them up?
Bring them up, probably.
Oh, right, okay.
Bones of hundreds of the animals lay strewn on the hill's surface, and it earned its original name from the great flocks of buzzards floating in the skies above, waiting for fresh arrivals. So maybe not. Before the Revolutionary War, wolves in the region were of little concern to man. There were few people, and the occasional explorer shot a wolf only when it posed a threat. All that changed, however, as civilization edged into the fertile.
We've been recording all day, guys. Sorry.
Fertile Ohio. Fertile Ohio.
It's alright.
Ohio River Valley, bringing livestock and villages with it. Wolves had no place in the frontier settlements. The wolves of Ohio began to prey upon the livestock as pioneers killed deer for meat, diminishing the herds the grey beasts had once depended on. In retaliation, the settlers started slaughtering wolves in great numbers. Every settlement pushed the animals farther west. In about 1796, settlers began to notice one pack of several dozen wolves that followed a great shaggy beast, who they came to call Old Rarden.
Oh, okay, there we go.
How he got his name isn't known, only that he was larger and more powerful than his brethren, and was often seen prowling in the distance after his pack had killed a farm animal. He knew what guns could do, and always kept just out of range. He was a king amongst wolves. To avenge the increasingly frequent raids from Rarden's pack, groups of a dozen or so pioneers would set out after him, their hounds baying in pursuit. Although many hounds and wolves were slain, Old Rarden always eluded capture. His fatally wounded comrades sought out Great Buzzard Rock to lay their bones to rest. Not even the bravest farmer dared following a dying wolf to that place, nor would any tracking hound approach it.
I like that.
Kind of sounds like... Was there not like a rock like that, or like a flat plain like that in Stephen King's Pet Sematary?
I think there was actually, yeah.
Maybe it's based on something like that.
It's been a while. I honestly couldn't remember too well. But yeah, no, I can see that.
Sorry?
Oh, is there more? Okay, let's see. What else does he have to say?
As the fame of Old Rarden grew, so did the numbers of hunters seeking him out. Over time, the pack was whittled down to a few tough survivors. Rarden and his mates. By 1801, it was rumoured that Rarden and his mates and his mate remained. Vastly outnumbered, the cunning old wolf found even his skills and instincts were no longer enough. The hunters finally cornered the king and his mate in the low hills near the Ohio River. The wolves killed several hinds, but the she-wolf was wounded. Old Rarden would not leave her. The two turned in the direction of Great Buzzard Rock. The hounds held to the trail as the day-long hunt wore on. For every wound the dogs inflicted, one of their numbers lost his life. Finally, in the last skirmish, one of the hunters scored a good shot. The she-wolf dropped, a bullet in her heart, and the second shot destroyed Old Rarden's right hip in a shower of blood and bone. Great Buzzard Rock was visible in the distance. Old Rarden raised his ragged grey head, once majestic and unbowed, now a mass of bloody fur, and howled. The hunters could have had him, but they stopped in their tracks. From the top of Great Buzzard Rock floated an answer, the howls of 100 dead wolves echoing from the bleached skulls that coated the rock. It seemed to give Old Rarden strength. He fastened his jaws on his mate's nape and dragged her corpse to the bush, heading towards the hill. What is known of his final battle is based purely on legend. No hunters who were there that day ever spoke on the record. It is doubtful their tale would have been believed, something beyond human understanding that had taken place in the wilderness. Old Rarden, though, is more than a folk tale to those who have seen his spectre prowling his old forest kingdom. When the moon is full, his awesome cry still drifts on the wind across Great Buzzard Rock, and on its summit, the shadowy form of a giant beast stands proud against the darkening sky.
I like that.
I like that. I've got goosebumps.
Do you? That's a good one. I like that. That's one of the better ones. I've never heard anything like that before.
Good boy.
Yeah, very good boy. I always, the problem is, though, I always find with, like, when you're chasing after, like, one enemy, it can be very difficult to handle combat. Does that make sense? I like this, and I really enjoy it, but it's one of those ones that takes a bit of skill to translate to role-playing games. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Let's keep going. Let's see what else does this...
So, I don't know if you know this, but we've got a website with lots of models. And whenever I say lots of models, I mean lots of models. We've got models for any setting that you can think of. With humans with biddies, animals that shouldn't have biddies but do have biddies, dwarves and elves with biddies. Look, we've got a lot of smut models. But it doesn't stop there. We really do have models for anything and everything. And to be honest, they look so good. Chef's kiss, so good. But it's not all smut for all you good Christian Minecraft server players. We've got you covered. And we even got the weebs covered too, which is unusual for this channel because we don't like weebs.
Yeah, the weebs aren't that bad, okay? They're just fun to laugh at.
We also have 5th edition subclasses and adventures, which some of them are free for download, and we sell a physical printed copy of Steel Water as well, and you can request a signed version, if that's your thing, where I'll draw a penis on it for you.
If you want us to sign a couple of decks, we'll give you decks, okay, guys? That's what you want.
Anyway, if you enjoy what we do here, go ahead and check out the website. It helps us out so much, and we don't need to worry about our YouTube overlord striking down another one of our channels. Our website is also now available as an app on Android. Also, and the winner of the daily giveaway is this guy! Yay! Woo!
Look, anyway, in for a chance to win, all you gotta do is like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, automatically entered in.
And to claim the prize, you just send an email to neckbeardiacontact@gmail.com. Let's get back to the video. There was an old man who lived alone, in the middle of the forest. He had 3 loyal hunting dogs to keep him company on the long, lonely nights. Nobody knew his real name, but most folks just called him Smitty. He loved hunting, fishing, and the great outdoors. Years ago, Smitty had quit his job, packed his belongings, and moved out to a nice little cabin he had built himself way back in the woods. It wasn't very big, but it was just enough for him. The cabin had only 2 rooms. One he used for a bedroom, and the other was a kitchen. He had built himself a nice big open fireplace where he could cook his food and warm his body on the chilly winter nights. He planted himself a nice little vegetable garden by the side of the house, and he would go out every day and hunt rabbits and fish. During the warm months, Smitty had no problem catching as much small game as he needed, but in the colder months, it became a little more difficult to keep his stomach full. One cold winter night, the old man went out to his storage shed to see what he could find for dinner. All he found was a small piece of fatty meat and a handful of mouldy potatoes. He had to make do with what was there, so he cooked it and gobbled it down. Smitty was still a little hungry, But there wasn't much he could do about that. So despite the protests of his grumbling stomach, Smitty stoked the fire in the fireplace to keep the cabin warm, and he went to bed. He was just about to fall asleep when he heard something in the room. He opened his eyes and saw a shadow creeping across the wall. He slipped quietly out of bed and tiptoed into the other room. There, he saw the oddest looking creature he had ever seen. It was short and stubby with pointed ears and a short fat feet with long claws, and it had a long bushy tail. There were no open doors or windows, so Smitty was confused as to how the funny looking thing had gotten in. He quietly picked up his axe and, creeping silently over to the odd critter, he brought it down squarely on its big tail. The creature let out a loud screech and escaped through a big hole in the wall. The old man was left standing there with his long bushy tail and a bloody axe clutching in his hand. Smitty was about to throw the old tail out the door when his growling stomach reminded him of how hungry he still was. So he took that tail and cleaned it, cooked it, and ate it. The taste was fairly agreeable, and with his stomach finally full, Smitty got back to his warm, cosy bed. Smitty had just drifted off into a deep sleep when a strange sound awakened him. It sounded like something trying to scratch its way into the cabin. The old man knew that if he stayed real quiet, it would probably go away, so he stayed as quiet as he could. But then he heard a strange, otherworldly voice hissing outside. tAiLyPo, tAiLyPo, I want my tAiLyPo. Smithy thought he must be imagining things, but then he heard it again. tAiLyPo, tAiLyPo, I want my tAiLyPo. Smitty jumped out of bed, flung open the doors, and called to his dogs. They came running, barking and sniffing around, but they didn't find anything at all. So Smitty put the dogs back outside and went to bed. Sleep had just eased itself into Smitty's body when he heard the voice again. This time the scratching sounded like it was at the window. Whatever it was, it really, really wanted to get in, but the scratching seemed to be on two walls at one time. Smitty called out, "Hey, hey, hey, who's that at my door? Get on away from
You hear?
here."
You hear? Oh my god, it just sounds like Bob Chandler. I'm going to cut down the internet.
Then he heard the strange voice again, only this time a little louder. tAiLyPo, tAiLyPo, where is my tAiLyPo? Po. Old Smitty, who wasn't one to frighten easily, was getting a little shaky. He eased to the window and called to his dogs again. The three hounds bounded up to the porch and they sniffed around and barked and sniffed. But they never found anything. This thread is already better than any X thread has been for years.
Ironically it is.
Smitty decided to stay up for the rest of the night to protect himself, his dogs and his little cabin. So he pulled a chair next to the fireplace, grabbed a blanket from his bed and settled in for the rest of the wind-chilled, wintry night. Sleep soon overtook him, and once again he dozed off. It was almost dawn when Smitty woke up with a start. The sound of scratching seemed to reverberate from every area of the cabin. Smitty searched frantically for his axe, his rifle, or something to defend himself with, but he was so frightened he couldn't find anything. The scratching grew louder and louder and louder. tAiLyPo, tAiLyPo, give back my tAiLyPo. Smitty yelled back, "Leave me alone, I ain't got your tAiLyPo." Then he called his dogs, but this time the dogs didn't come. He waited and waited, but still not one dog came running. Smitty had never been so scared in his life. He ran to his bed and jumped in. The scratching and the voice grew louder and louder and louder. tAiLyPo, tAiLyPo, give back my tAiLyPo. Smitty yelled back as loud as he could, "I ain't got no tAiLyPo, so why don't you leave me alone and go on about your business? I ain't never hurt nobody or nothing, just leave me alone." The scratching seemed to be inside the house now, and the voice was so loud it was deafening. tAiLyPo, tAiLyPo, you took my tAiLyPo, give it to me now! Smitty pulled the cover up over his head and stayed as quiet as he could, but the scratching was now in his room. tAiLyPo, tAiLyPo, you better give back my tAiLyPo. Smitty then felt the thing scratching up the bottom of the bed and onto the cover. Smitty eased the cover down to see what steadily approached. Then he saw it. Long as a man was tall, with pointed ears, fat feet, and long claws, and yellow eyes that gleamed in the dark. Before he could pull the covers over his head again, the thing pounced on his chest, looked straight down at him and said, "You got my tAiLyPo, and you better give it back to me now." Smitty yelled, "I ate it! I ate your tAiLyPo! It's gone!" And that thing started to scratch and claw and tear away at old poor Smitty, trying to get that tAiLyPo back. Smitty tried to fight back, but that thing was too strong, and those claws were too sharp. Smitty's screams echoed throughout the dark mountains, then stopped, leaving a chilling silence. After a month or two without hearing from Smitty, the folks who owned the store at the base of the mountain went up to his cabin to make sure everything was all right. When they got there, they found his cabin torn to shreds, but no sign of Smitty or the dogs. They searched the woods and called for them. "Smitty, I know, you know, Comtico, Calico, but they never found a thing. As the search party was heading down the mountain, the winter began to blow. A strange voice could be heard saying, tAiLyPo, now I've got my tAiLyPo.
That was very good.
I'm nearly sure I heard that story whenever I was younger.
Have you?
I'm nearly sure I've heard that story, that scary story.
I thought it was quite good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I thought that was
good.
I don't. Again, was it a Skinwalker? Or was it? It kind of gives me Skinwalker
vibes. Where it had like bits and pieces of all different animals to it.
Yeah, and then it's like I like it. I enjoyed that.
Like it.
That was a good story. That was well put together.
A preacher was riding to one of the churches on his circuit when darkness fell and was about to storm, and the only house nearby was the old mansion which was reputed to be haunted. The preacher clutched his Bible and said, "The Lord will take care of me." He went into the mansion just as the storm broke. He put his horse into the barn and made his way to the house. The door was unlocked. He went into a large room which contained a fireplace that filled one wall. There was wood laid for a fire. He laid a match to it, and the preacher sat down to read his Bible. Gradually the fire burnt down to a heap of coals as the storm howled around the mansion. The preacher was roused from his reading by the sound. He looked up from his Bible. A very large black cat was stretching itself. Then it walked to the fire and sat down amongst the red-hot coals. It picked a coal up in its paw and licked it slowly. The cat got up, shook off the ashes, and walked to the foot of the preacher's chair. It fixed blazing yellow eyes upon him, black tail lashing, and said quietly, "Wait until Emmett comes." The preacher jumped from Genesis to Matthew in shock. He had never heard of a cat talking before. Nervously, he kept reading his Bible, muttering to himself, "The Lord will take care of me." 2 minutes later, another cat came into the room. It was black as midnight, as large as the biggest dog, and its ears were ragged and torn. It lay down among the red-hot coals, lazily batting them with enormous paws. Then it walked over to the other cat and said, "What shall we do with him?" The first cat replied, "We should not do anything until Emmett comes." The two cats, black as midnight, sat watching the preacher who read through the Gospels at top speed, aware of blazing yellow eyes watching him. A third cat, as big as a tiger and missing an eye, entered the room. It went to the fire full of red-hot coals and rolled among them, chewing them and spitting them out. Then it came to the other two cats facing the preacher in the chair. "What shall we do with him?" it growled to the others. "We should not do anything until Emmett comes," the other cats replied together. The preacher flipped to Revelation, looking fervently around the room, sweat beading on his brow, but he kept his eyes locked on the Bible's page. There was a loud creak from the other room, then a crash. A fourth cat, as big as an elephant, forced its way through the parlour doors, the frame splintering and cracking. It loomed over the others, and a jagged scar across its face. "Has Emmett come?" it rumbled. At this, the preacher closed his Bible and stood up. "Good night, cats. I's glad of your company. But when Emmett comes, you don't tell him I've been here." And when?
That's it? It just ends? That story just ends?
No, there's bound to be more. I'm looking it up.
Okay, that's ridiculous. There's no way that just comes to an end right there. I was actually really enjoying that. Why does it just end? That's bullshit, actually. Like, no. Right, hold on. Give us 1 second, guys. We're going to have to Google this. Okay, so I found it on a website called American Folklore, but this is just an excerpt from a full story written by S.E. Schlosser. I can't say it. I'll link to it down below, so I will. But yeah, that's a bit of a shame. I was really enjoying that. You know what? I'm gonna pull the bullshit in a reverse. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Or do you know the story?
Do you actually know this?
I need to know what happened.
Like, I feel misdone by that. I was really invested.
I was really invested in that. I wanted to know what Emmett was.
Yeah. So if any of you guys know anything about Emmett, let us know. So yeah, this thread's like really big, and I'd love to go back to it. However, you guys know how it is. It feels like, you know, everyone always says, it's like, oh, we'd love more story times, I really want more story times.
Well, listen to them.
But the problem is, when we do the story times, then, like, they never do as well, and therefore, if they don't do as well, then, like, you know, the channel doesn't do as well overall, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse. Yeah. And, so, you know, that's really the problem that we're dealing with. So, like, if you do, like, these sort of story times, definitely, please, comment on them, share them anywhere you think people would enjoy them. anything at all. Like, all that sort of stuff really does help.
It always helps out.
It always helps to no end, you know what I mean? And of course, checking the website and all that
And
sort
all
of
that
jazz,
stuff.
if you're interested. Also, if you enjoy this sort of Americana sort of stuff, the gas station, if you haven't got it.
Exactly. Go get it.
Okay.
We don't have many left, but like, we're never going to print them again, so you might as well see if you can get one.
Yeah, if you're interested in picking up, go for it.
Yeah.
And also, if you buy the physical version, you get the PDF free anyway.
Yeah,
So
so.
that's a thing. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I really want to come back to this thread, so hopefully this video does well, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
All those moments.